Hello and welcome. Welcome to Leading Ladies, Leading Ladies, Leading Legacies. I love that title because I see every lady as a leading lady. Welcome. It's always great to spend time and space with you. And every third Thursday of the month, I invite a leading lady in to speak with you, my featured guest speaker that I'm introducing to you. Because you know, everyone has a circle, a group, a tribe of people, and we all don't know each other. And we ought to, because ladies, it's our time. It's time for all ladies to unite and connect. No copy, no compete, no compare. Let's collaborate and get together. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. My friend, and a lady that I met several years ago and stayed in touch with because I love the work that she's doing. Nancy Ferraro has done a lot. She's a lawyer, she's written a book, and she's going to share with you a lot of other things that she's about, that she wants to share with you. The title of her book, When the Bough Breaks. I love the title. A mother's story of carnage, courage, and the triumph of faith. How could you not love that title? Not only the title, you're going to love her too. I could go on and on and on, you know that. But it's not about me or you. It's about our featured guest speaker today. And I want you to help me to welcome her to the stage. And what I'm going to do now is pin you here, Nancy, and ask you to, here we go. And I'm going to ask you to begin to share your story with us and welcome. I didn't give you a background because people, they want to know about you and what you're doing now. You can put the background in later. Nice to have you here, Nancy. The stage is yours.
Joy, it's such an honor to be with you. And yes, we have known each other for a number of years in a lot of different ways. And so the most wonderful thing about that is that we know we like each other, we trust each other. And when an opportunity comes up, we always reach out to each other first. So thank you for that. My name is Nancy Ferraro, and I wrote this little book. It's called When the Bough Breaks, and it's a memoir about a child I adopted from Romania. So when we got George, I got him when he was 4, and I thought I was giving my older son a little brother. I wanted to complete my little family. Instead, George arrived in the suburbs of New Jersey, a feral child, a wild animal in the body of a. The violence he came to rain on us, we called Hurricane George. He came with a host of disabilities, from fetal alcohol syndrome to institutionally acquired autism, to attachment disorder, to limited mental capacity. And what happened was I fell into a tunnel. I fell into a dark hole. Because, as you know, anyone who stood in the shoes of motherhood or caregiving knows that when our children have troubles, that shadow falls long on us, the mothers, the caregivers. And when we cannot cure those ills, when we cannot save our children, when we not heal it, it's a shame. And the shame falls on us. And it's not just us who judge us, society judges us. But we are our harshest critics. When we all came out vertical, I realized that I had words, and those words imposed on me an obligation to try to shed light, share commonality, feel that we're not alone, reach out to other mothers. I'm not a hero, I'm not an angel, I'm not a victim. I'm just a mom. I'm a mom who fell into a nightmare and lived to tell the tale. This is my story. And I invite you to. Well, okay, as you know, I'm an attorney, and I thought I had the keys to the kingdom then, you know, and what I learned through my journey with George, who is from Romania, as you know, and when we adopted him, the news was all about Romania trying to join the European Union. And so there were news stories plastered everywhere about the orphanages cleaning up their acts and all of that kind of thing. And so we felt very comfortable having done our homework. My ex-husband is of Lebanese extraction. I'm Italian. And so he was very adamant that he wanted a child who would fit into our family, who would look like us. Italy was not an option, and Romania, and neither was Lebanon. when you sign up with an international adoption agency, you have to choose a country. And I said, just send me the first purple child. I don't care. Purple child, I don't care. They said, no, ma'am, Mrs. Ferraro, you have to actually choose a country. And so Romania was one of the only countries that seemed to be an option, because Romania was actually part of the Roman Empire at one time. So I thought, great, this is a chance for us to have a child who looked like us. And we did actually do our homework. Or so we thought. In fact, we sent our reports to my pediatrician, who said he looks normal to me, sent the video, same thing, looks normal, looks fine. And of course, all our reports said he was normal. Fast forward to bringing George home. We were sitting on the sofa one evening after finally realizing that something was wrong. Okay, so George comes to us, he's laughing maniacally and running away. And he didn't stop playing with the light switches or flushing the toilet or playing with the remote control. And he would flush the toilet and cover his ears because the sound was disturbing to him. Would not hug or kiss me or show affection. Well, all that seemed normal at the beginning. Wasn't picking up language. And my older son and I had learned some mommy Romanian. We were calling George to the table in Romanian, wash your hands, brush your teeth, come to the table. He wasn't responding. So all of that at the beginning seems like normal behavior, right? How could he be affectionate to someone he doesn't know? He doesn't know us. How could he love us? How could he be affectionate? And then the light switches. We saw the foster home where George came from. And I have to tell you that it looked like everything you imagine in a vampire movie, in a black and white flick. We were zipping around on dirt roads, and you know the street signs in the Dracula movie, they're on stakes, they're pointing exactly that. And then a Maserati would zip by and a cow would be in the street. It was just unbelievably surreal. And I remember pulling up in front of the foster home, and my ex-husband looked at me, he said, oh my God, there's no glass in the windows. So we went in, and there was no glass in the windows. The toilets didn't flush. The light switches didn't work. It was, the electricity was spotty. Everybody had a cell phone. So that was, that was very weird. So when we brought George home and realized that, of course he's playing with light switches. Of course he's flushing the toilet. Of course he's obsessed with the remote. But as time went by and he didn't pick up language and he didn't stop playing with the light switches, that's when the light started to dawn that maybe English was not his only problem. So that started me on a journey of doctor shopping, because I was determined as a mother, as you know, to solve this, because I am mother. Hear me roar, right? And everything I knew about being a successful adult was about being a mother, because I grew up in an Italian household. The greatest thing a woman could do with her life is motherhood, right? So I thought it would come naturally, and it didn't. So I started doctor shopping, and the doctors very quickly started telling me this child belongs in an institution. Oh, that's a quack. Next doctor. You want to solve it. 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 And this went on for about 6 to 9 months, still doctor shopping. Now George has gotten comfortable with me, and he's gotten so comfortable now that the symptoms of the fetal alcohol syndrome are starting to come out. So he started to attack me, and it was me. I was home with him all day, and I was the object of that violence almost every day for almost a decade. And the heartbreaking thing about a child with this kind of a disability is that they can't form the intent to hurt you, right? It comes from my lawyer's mind. In order to be guilty of a crime, you have to be able to create the motive for the crime. A child with this kind of disability can't create a motive. He has no ill intent. It's just a curtain that drops. He disappears, and the violence just comes out. And when it's done, it's done. Now George is ready for a snack or TV or whatever, and you're still sitting like, whoa. It's like the fat man who jumps in the pool, right? The fat man who jumps in the pool is always fine. Everybody else is just bobbing for their lives. And that was the first 9 years of our relationship with George. We were all just in survival mode. Then one evening, we are, doing our nighttime routine, trying to get into some kind of normalcy. And the TV was on, it was Dateline. And there was Dr. Ron Federici, who is a neuropsychologist. And he happens to be the leading expert in this country in Eastern European adoption. And the name of the piece was Saving Dane, Saving a Family. And we watched while Dr. Federici sat on the floor with this child for 10, 12, 16 hours at a time while this child raged and raged and raged. And the kid was 16 years old. He was a big boy. And he was out of, I think he was from Romania or Russia, one of the Eastern European countries. And I thought two things. The first thing I thought was, oh my God, are we in for it? But the second thing I thought was, here it is. Here's the solution. Here's my savior. Man alive, am I lucky. Got on the computer the next day, phoned the office. We were sitting before this doctor in 3 months. Now, when you see a doctor who's been on national television in 3 month span, you either think, well, he had a whole new schedule and aren't we lucky? Or the thing I did not want to think, which was, this is a severe case and he really is interested in seeing George because he is that severe. So Dr. Federici wanted to see George unmedicated, and we brought him in unmedicated. And within about 30 seconds, he said, go get his drugs. He was unmanageable and untenable. And at the end of this 2-day evaluation, Dr. Federici said, you've got a death sentence on your hands. This is going to be the rest of your life. And you are not going to cure this. You are going to deal with the symptoms. And by the way, he read my report. He said, I want to see a report from the orphanage. And I handed it to him in Romania, and he said, your translation is wrong. They knew. They knew in the orphanage that George was special needs, and they did not tell you. So that was the beginning of the end for us. But it was also a turning point, because once I finally wrapped my head around the fact that I wasn't going to cure this, that I wasn't alone, I started talking to everyone, mothers in grocery stores, in everywhere I went, because I learned so much from the mothers and started really taking back my power. And that is the most important thing for people with children who have troubles, to know that you're not giving up your power. You have power, you have a voice, and you need to use it. So many parents, so sadly, were waiting for me to do something. I'd walk into a classroom and they would say, hello, Mrs. Thomas, what can we do for you today? And I would say, darn straight, what can you do for me today? And so if George got compensatory speech, the whole class got compensatory speech. And it was that way because, frankly, it's so much easier to live in denial. My child will outgrow it. My child will recover. They're not really handicapped. And the biggest fight I had was that feeling of aloneness, because well-meaning family members did not want to acknowledge that handicap. You don't know how to talk to him. You must be doing something to irritate him. Are you sure he's really handicapped? Like, what? And so that is a feeling of loneliness and isolation. And your friends kind of shy away from you because you turn into a different person. You turn into a depressed, alone person, and then you become a depressed, alone person. I don't know if anyone knows that the author, Pearl S. Buck, who is the author of The Good Earth, she is a very well-respected fiction author, but she also had a special needs child. And she wrote a little book called The Child Who Never Grew. And I felt as though 50 years prior, she had stepped into my brain and pulled out the words when she said, people shrink from penetrating surfaces. People shrink from penetrating surfaces. They see your pain, and it's hard for them to come toward it. Right? And I understand that, because if you come toward someone's pain, then you almost feel like you have to own it or help or do something. And when people don't know what to do, they don't know what to do. So they do back away from you. So it was an enormous learning curve for me. And the whole point of putting this into words, parents of Son of Sam don't write a book. People whose children commit horrific crimes or commit suicide or have drug problems, they don't write books because of the shame. They don't want to talk about it. But this book has already started to affect people. I got a message on a private message on Facebook the other day from a woman who said, "Thank you for writing this. Congratulations. I don't think I can read it because it's so painful." And I couldn't get with her soon enough to give her a hug, because I wanted her to know she's not alone. She's not alone. You might feel alone, but we have to start shedding light. We have to start a conversation. We have to bring this into the sunlight and dissipate the shame. Is that my time?
Nancy, sit tight. I tell you, I have lots of questions for you. I just celebrate, applaud, and commend you for what you just shared with us. Cheryl, welcome. Great to see you here. Catherine, I know you came because you really wanted to hear our beautiful Nancy speak, and so we did. And your story needs to be out there and shared. So before I ask you what I want to, I would like for, if you don't mind, Nancy, for Catherine to introduce herself and tell us what she does and how she serves and benefits others. Cheryl, you the same. And then I'm going to open the floor, and I want Nancy to address some questions that I have, and I'm sure you have some too. Thank you for sharing. Catherine, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Joy. My name is Catherine Hay, and I am a women's empowerment coach. The name of my business is Empowered to Be Your Best. And what I do is I show women how to say no to the people and things in their lives that don't serve them. I teach them how to set boundaries so they can experience freedom from resentment and overwhelm and stress. I had a comment for Nancy. I have a grandson who's disabled and recently found out that it's fetal alcohol syndrome. The mom didn't tell me the truth. And his father, my son, is basically a homeless alcoholic and drug addict who was bringing violence into the home, and she finally pushed him out of the picture, thank goodness. My grandson actually is a real sweetie pie. He'll grab your cheeks and kiss you and hug you, but he will never be able to do anything on his own. He's severely disabled. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to hear your story. It brought tears to my eyes.
Me too. Thank you, Catherine, for sharing that. And I know you have a question for Nancy. I want Cheryl to introduce herself, and then we're going to come back. And if Nancy is willing and open, I feel that she is, you can address that question. And I have several as well. And my heart goes out to you because alcoholism runs rampant in my family. So thank you for sharing. Cheryl, you're up, and thank you for being here. Let's see.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're more than welcome always. Wait a minute, I lost you. Let me get you back here. I want to make sure that you share with us who you are, what you do, and how you serve others. And thank you for coming. And then we're going to plow Nancy with questions. Okay, the stage is yours.
I'm Cheryl. Port St. Lucie is my home base, but I travel full-time now. We sold our home, bought an RV, and my goal is to be a full-time traveler, but I still work full-time as well. And Nancy, nice to meet you. Such a powerful story and touching story. And I send lots of prayers and good wishes to you for sure. I have two little nephews who were born with small brain syndrome. They're 6 and 7 now. They're, very disabled. And the older they get, the bigger the problem it is getting. And so I just heard you have a book
Yes.
that is, so I would like to find out how to get your book by the end of this podcast.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that. And we're going to make sure that Nancy promotes that book, gives you where to get it and all of that stuff. So thank you for coming. I think, my plight, was there more? I'm sorry, my love. Did I interrupt what you were?
No, I'm good.
I wanted to just say before I bring Nancy back that for me, it's about working. By the way, for those of you who don't know, and I never assume anything, especially for those who will come for the replay, I am Joy Ruffin, and I work as a style and leadership coach, a signature style specialist, speaker, executive producer, TV host, and podcaster, and it is all aligned. My work is predominantly with women who are mature, transitioning from one something to another, and I absolutely have a passion as well for working with young people. So I'm very interested in parenting, even though that's not my arena that I dance in, but I have a great deep understanding of it. And when I met Nancy and I heard that she was writing this book, she told me that. I said, we have to get her here to talk, because the young, the old guard, the new guard, the young, the mature, the elder, whatever verbiage you choose to use, we need to find that middle to meld them. And before we're done here today, I want to share with all of you something that has helped me tremendously. And I know it will help you, especially what Nancy shared with us about George. And before I go any further with that, just remind you, but Nancy, I'm going to bring you back to the front here so that you can now share with us and address any questions that we have. So I know that Catherine, you had one to start off with. So start and then we'll take it from there. The stage, just ask Nancy whatever you want. We can leave our mics open.
Well, I fully intend to buy your book, but I just wanted to know, the story that you told about when you took your son to the doctors, did he end up working with him? What was the result of that? What's been the end, outcome?
The doctor that, Dr. Federici in Virginia, is that who you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we did consult with him several times, but we were living in New Jersey. And so to continue being his patient was not practical, but also it was to no end, because there was no talk therapy for George, right? It was just medication. And so he advised us on medication, he advised us on some behavioral things. And I took it from there and went into the education system and really had to learn about George's challenges and how to meet them, because then I had to go into the school system and actually conduct his IEPs, his individualized education plans, because I don't know whether the teachers were just uneducated or whether George was that severe. And of course, as time goes by, it becomes more and more obvious that George was a very severe case. So I really did have to do a lot of education, but I also had to teach the state agencies. I wasn't teaching them, they were hiding from me. State agencies, I had to teach them their job. And when I would say, I know there's a after-school placement in the special needs program at the ARC, for instance, the answer I was always met with was, how did you find that out? Who told you? What? What? Is it the CIA I'm dealing with? It was just insane. So getting help was very difficult, as you can well imagine. But
a former teacher in the public school system who had a child that was, I'll just say disturbed, had a terrible home life. I absolutely understand what you're talking about. And, there's not enough provisions for the teachers. I taught in a school that was in a very poor neighborhood. So I was basically on my own, and I was a brand new teacher. So I completely understand that, and it can be very overwhelming for the parents and the teacher.
It is. And what the school district will not tell you, it's always about the bottom line. It's always about money, but they're not allowed to
Yes.
tell you that because they have to give every child free, appropriate public education, right? It's a
Right.
federal mandate, appropriate being the operative term. And the mistake a lot of parents make is saying, my child's not reaching his potential or her potential. That's not the Board of Education's job. The Board of Education's job is to give them an appropriate education. And so learning those key words was critical for me. And where did I learn them? From other mothers.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
unity and that gathering together. You know, it's Catherine, I had forgotten that you were a school teacher. My heart goes out to school teachers, even today where it's changed tremendously, because so many, and this is not a dig, it's a reality. So many parents are sending their kids off to school for the teachers to do everything. And that was somewhat always the case, but now it's bombarded to the height and it's just too much. Parenting is major. It means everything. I want to, oh, Cheryl, did you have a question for Nancy?
No, I just want to know how to get your book.
Yes. Nancy.
Well, it's so glad you asked. It is currently available for pre-order at Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and
Okay.
is scheduled to drop October 3rd or 4th. However, pre-orders are being shipped now. So pre-orders will be delivered, from what I understand, this coming Monday, which is
Okay.
very exciting.
Nancy, do you have a
Yes.
book tour plan? Will you be doing any going around speaking any, every, and all places that you can? Good.
I will, and I'll keep you posted. There are a
Okay.
lot of areas.
I'm sure I'd like to be kept posted. And let me
Yes.
share this with you because I know that this is major. By the way, I might have missed something. How is George doing now?
George, I get messages a lot that and affirmations that I did the right thing. George is living in a group home. He is actually the mayor of wherever he goes. However, yes, George won the lottery, and I'm so grateful that he landed with me. And the reason I say that, I know it's crazy. The reason I say that I'm grateful he landed with me is because I have ESQ behind my name. Didn't give me any greater ability or power, except that it scared people a little bit. So I
Yes.
would get office letterhead whenever I wrote a letter and put my name, comma, ESQ, because, oh my God, she's going to sue us. But it worked.
Well, you know what, Nancy, everywhere you go and everywhere you speak, people will ask you that, and just end with that because he did win the lottery with you. And what happened is you were misled and deceived. And so you can only do so much. Here's what I know for sure, ladies. And if you're not familiar with this platform, this service, find your way to find someone. I know of several that are top of the line, A+. Human design. My assignment is for all of us to really get to know who we are, especially us women, because it's time for us now to step into our power. Nancy, you used the word power, and power that's filled with love and is authentic, which is what you gave to George. But human design will share with you why we're here. I mean, there are so many spiritual realms that do this, but and I've been involved in all of them because as a young juvenile, almost delinquent girl, I almost went over to the dark side. Luckily, I had many mentors and teachers and people who took me under their wings. And so that's why I do what I do here for the young and for the mature, because we need each other. But look into human design. And if you have any questions, get back to me and I will give you 2 or 3 people that you can look to and see which one suits you best for you knowing more about you, because you can never know too much about you. You are the leader. You are the guide. You are the teacher. First off, self-love for you. Right, Nancy? Right,
Exactly.
Cheryl? Right, Catherine?
Right.
Absolutely. So
And I
that's
just
it. I really, because when you mentioned that George had all of this rage and he was misled, when that energy isn't you, and you, what you said in the beginning, Nancy, that really blew me away, when you and your hubby, ex-hubby, arrived there and there were no glasses and no flushing of the toilets and so on and so forth. Wow, that was a signal right there, wasn't it? But how do we know when we're trusting in someone else and our integrity is at the top of the line? But not everyone is. This is what we learn as we travel through life, right? Yes.
Exactly. And when you said, did you, how is George doing? The end result is he's doing great, except he's still raging. So
Yes.
last week, it's going to be a lifetime of advocacy. I didn't drop him off at a group home and say, here you
No.
go, and automatic pilot. But Now he's still raging. And last week, he was actually led away from his day program in handcuffs. The police came, they took him to the emergency room, and it's going to be, what do we do now? Now there are more meetings. Do we adjust his medication? Is somebody irritating him? Is someone setting him off? Is something going on? It's never going to end. But this is the affirmation that I do, I think, for George, because I was the object of that violence for so long. And now I'm not. And he's in capable hands, people who love him and care for him, but are trained. And so knowing where to stay in your lane is critical. And I know that
Yes.
that's not my lane.
Yes.
But finding the right people, and that was the real power, is actually finding the place.
Yes. I hear you loud and clear. And I might be going off the rail, which I have a tendency to do. I don't work to be politically correct anymore, and my diplomacy skills are not at the height. But I want to ask you this, and if you don't feel that you want to answer it, was there any repercussions for the agency that you went to because of this, or is that something that's not to be discussed? I know you're lawyers. So.
Well, I will tell you this.
Yes.
When you use an international adoption agency,
Yes.
if they insulate themselves correctly, and I know because I spent a lot of money, much to my ex-husband's chagrin, on international adoption attorneys, apparently the MO is they don't touch your medical records. Your medical records come from the host country, from a different foundation. So that gives them an out. And even though I know they knew, there was nothing to pin on them. There was no way to hook them. And when I spoke to the attorneys, I drove to Washington, D.C., met with these great lawyers, gave them all my documents, and the attorney got on the phone with me. He was almost in tears, telling me that we did not have a case.
Wow.
Because he said, I will tell you this, it will cost about $6 million to take George to adulthood.
Oh my God.
Whew, that's powerful. I had to ask that. I had my reasons for it. You know, ladies, if you want to stay, I just want to close out. And then if you want to stay, I have some other questions, just a couple for you, Nancy, but I don't want to ask them in the recording. And if you can stay, that would be great. Is that a doable? All right.
Of course.
And Cheryl and Catherine, please make sure you put all of your data in the chat box. We save that and send it out. And let me say to all of you who will come for the replay that you want to rush out and to purchase this book. This lady has done something that needed to be done. Others like Catherine and Cheryl, who are here today, wanted to gather more information. And there are many others out there. One of the things that I want to ask Nancy, because I didn't get a chance to before I close out here, Pearl S. Buck, I remember reading, I must have been 4 or 5, I'm exaggerating to make a point, but I missed the point that she gave. So I want to come back and ask her about that. But thank you for sharing time and space with us. Time and space is everything, right? And what we do is we celebrate each other. My assignment on this planet before I leave it is to make sure that more women are united, connected, and aligned to support and collaborate with each other. No copy, no competing, and no comparing. We don't have time for that anymore, because if we're going to stand in our power and be all that we're here to be, we have to be celebrating every woman, everywhere, whether you love her or not. And hopefully, if your heart is full, it's full of love. Thank you again for being here. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. And we'll see you again, hopefully soon. Bye for now. Cheers.